Welcome to the 42 Podcast, where we discuss life together, looking for answers to life, the universe, and, well, everything else. Here are your hosts, Rob and Lindsay. Good morning, Lindsay.
Why, hello, Robert. How are
you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, so we've been talking through some life stuff.
Lots of life.
Lots of life.
Lots of life.
Took a little bit of a rabbit trail last week, but we wanted to talk college and, college stuff as well, because all the college students are back. And it's been a while since you've been in college.
Yeah, it has. It's been like 11 years.
It's only been 3 for me. So who better than a college student to talk college about?
I couldn't agree more. Tell us, who do you have with us today?
I have a former student of mine from youth group from many years ago. It's been
How many years ago? We need to know the numbers. I need to know the numbers.
Chris, how long's it been?
Oh man, I think you guys moved away probably about when I want to say I was like 12, so it's been like 10 years almost.
It's been, I moved away in 2014. It's been 8 years.
Yeah, it's getting close, man. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit, but this is Chris. He is a former student of mine and a friend. And Chris, you are a college student.
That is true.
That is very true. So, we've got a lot of questions for you with life and how that's going and what it is to be a college student, especially in this generation. Yeah, because it's all a bit weird and complicated now, or at least from my perspective, it is.
It definitely has been, like, right from the get-go. I definitely didn't have a normal college experience because I started right in the fall of 2020.
Oh, man.
I started like peak COVID, and it was, entering college itself is a whole new environment, but to do it during the pandemic, it shifted everything from what I was expecting,
Yeah, so you graduated right there in the pandemic. You were a 2020 graduate, weren't you?
Yep.
Sorry, we were actually talking a little bit briefly about that before we recorded. But yeah, everything about what was your young adult life got turned on top of its head right there at the beginning of finding I can speak. I need more coffee this morning. But every bit of what you and who you are as a young adult got turned on its head.
Yeah, it was essentially kind of like that's almost the time where you know right after high school where people like leave for college or start doing their own thing. That's before the end of like my senior year and all that. I was kind of expecting it to be like, oh, this is the time where I can go still be close to home, but still kind of be able to learn more about myself and kind of my own space. But then it just, the whole like world thought, like you said, it kind of just got put upside down and just backwards. Everything was distorted like faster than I could really process it.
Yeah. All right. So pandemic has settled down. We're in this new state of normal. Are you in classes now?
Yes. And
okay.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Sorry.
Are you in classes living on campus, in classes living at home?
I am in classes living, you can live on campus. I'm living off campus. Just I'll be in an apartment.
Oh, okay. All right. So you've got a couple roommates and a situation off campus then.
Yeah.
All right. And how's that going for you? My first college roommate was weird. But then again, so was I. So
well, this is the couple of the guys I'm living with, they were my suite mates last year, my sophomore year, and they're a bunch of like really cool guys.
Oh, good.
They're a grade beneath me. They're sophomores, but I don't know. We just connected well. They're really cool guys. Really nice to be around. I will say, like the one that was my direct roommate last year, I couldn't have gotten luckier because it was, just a randomly assigned guy. But he's super empathetic, super understanding, and just hopes the best and wants to see the best in people. And I really like that about that.
Mm.
So I lucked out because I know some people have had bad experience with roommates, but I have not.
Yeah, that can be a huge nightmare, depending on how that works. Yeah. Lindsay, what are you thinking?
I I'd never lived by myself ever. Well, in the young adult program, obviously we lived with homeowners, but I never had roommates per se. So I didn't have that experience in college. I went to school to a university like a mile from my house or within driving distance because I did go to another one for a little while. So I always lived at home and then I got married and left. Which I preferred. I wouldn't have liked living in a dorm with people. I don't like to wear flip-flops in the shower.
All right. So, Chris, what's your major?
I'm majoring in environmental science.
And what do you want to do with that?
Ideally, I would like to be a park ranger.
I love it. Cool. It's not what I thought you were going to say. Cool. What inspired you to pursue this course?
Well, initially I started my major off as something like entirely different. I started my freshman year as an aerospace engineering major.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I shifted from it not because it was too challenging. Don't get me wrong, it was ridiculously challenging. But the summer after my freshman year, I went back to a summer camp I camped at through like all my childhood, and I worked there. And just being outside all summer, just getting to experience that, and that being like part of the job, I was just sitting there thinking like halfway through the summer, like, you know what? I think it'd be really boring to just sit in a cubicle and do math for 40 years.
Yep.
So I changed my major to environmental science, and I want to be a park ranger. That's outdoors all the time, but it's still actively helping people, which is something I do want to do.
Is that working for the state, like state parks and things?
Yeah, there's different levels to parks. It could be anything from local all the way up to federal at like a national park.
Cool.
All right. What would be your dream park?
Ooh. I think it would probably have to be Yellowstone is obviously up there. But I think for me personally, it would be Crater Lake National Park.
Really?
In Oregon.
What state's that in?
Oregon.
Oregon, okay.
Why
That's pretty
Crater
cool.
Lake?
There's just, I don't know, I'm just a big fan of the Pacific Northwest in general, but there's just something about Crater Lake that it's just, I don't know. Again, like I said, I always liked space, and this is kind of like one of those areas where that was almost intertwined because Crater Lake. I believe I could be very wrong if that lake is not just formed out of a natural crater. But I don't know. It's just a really pretty place. I like the area. And
Yeah, lots of trees.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at pictures right now. It's pretty, very pretty. Huh. It's a sleeping volcano, I think. That's interesting.
And being out on that side of the country, you're going to deal with a lot of wildfires, but still, that would be.
Yeah, and on that wildfire side of things, actually, something I do want to do eventually is get, at least to some extent, my pilot's license,
Mm,
so I can help combat those forest fires.
okay. So you want to fly the plane that drops the firefighters, or the firefighting gel that they use?
The firefighting gel is what I'd like to do.
That would be
Hmm.
pretty cool. Okay, so you've got a plan, you've got a dream, you're going through and learning what you need to. Um, how have you felt? How have you felt in adapting and finding yourself? Because I mean, that's a lot of what happens with college. And
I have
Chris, if I stumble into anywhere where you're like, yeah, we're not going to answer that, just say so.
no, yeah, of course. Uh, when it came to the idea, like you said, of finding myself, initially when I went to college, it almost felt like I wasn't almost myself,
Hmm.
uh, because it was such two different environments that I almost felt like I was two different people. I still had, how I acted, myself around everyone at home, but then when you're thrust into this new environment, knowing no one, and on top of that all, it had been in like the peak pandemic, and there was little to no uh, interaction like in person,
Hmm.
and I think that didn't help with me. It both did and didn't help with me trying to figure out who I was, because I had a lot of me time just up in my dorm. Um, from what I have come to learn from these past couple of years of college is that um, you almost find yourself in the little bits of people around you more than you can just from some self-reflection, because you have to get out into the world and see how you interact with people, almost
Hmm.
see who you are. But it's also, I'm under the opinion that you shouldn't initially just let people's opinions sway you immediately, because if you're just acting conformably to the people around you, at that point you're just trying to fit in with every group you found yourself. And at that point, it's a struggle, because at least for me, initially it was, because when you want to make friends with people, a lot of the times if they can say like an outrageous opinion, you're tempted to just keep your own voice back and say uh-huh. But you have to have your own thoughts and ideas, and you have to figure out who you are as a person before you can almost understand the thoughts and ideas of someone else.
So, question. Based on the background that you and Rob share, I can infer you have some kind of history with Christianity, correct?
Correct.
So, how has this experience, being alone, meeting new people, having a lot of time just to reflect, how has that informed your religion, spirituality, etc.?
Well, initially it was, you see, I grew up, in a Christian home, and I was always surrounded by at least a couple of Christian friends. And then I got to college, and virtually nobody I met at first was Christian. So that was uh, kind of upending it. It did, and with everything that had been going on, the past couple of, like the last couple of years before I went to college, and about the first year of college, I really just like kind of lost all almost all sense of religiousness. Like if anyone had asked me at that time if I was Christian, I would have outwardly said yeah. But I wasn't like living up to any sort of like uh faith or like religious idea. But like I said, where I worked that summer, the camp I worked at is actually a Bible camp. So there, speaking from my own faith, I can say I was lucky enough to have almost quite literally a come to Christ moment there. You know, there was a big rekindling of my faith and reconnected with it. And I know people have different views on faith and people have different faiths, but being of the Christian faith, working at that camp and it being rekindled has been really encouraging. So, and that was the summer of last year in 21. I worked there again this year and it was just as great. And so being at college did not help my faith in the slightest, but that was the first year where things were closed down. The church on our campus wasn't open and I didn't get out to meet people. There were no clubs going on, but I think they started to do that last year, but I was still kind of growing back into my faith, so I didn't put myself out there into those, you know, communities. But I think this year, now that my faith is a lot stronger and I'm like back into like my sense of religion, I can put myself back out in these communities that have now been like brought back. So I guess like as a broad whole, college has not helped my faith, but that could also just be the consequence of my own action.
So where you are now in your Christianity, how does it compare to where you were at your strongest, or however, like your senior year before you left? You know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not
Where I'm at
like
now, sorry.
Well, go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
Where I'm at now is probably the strongest it's ever been, and compared to my senior year, it's miles and miles. Like my faith, my senior year of high school was probably close to non-existent, and that is most likely just because I had a lot going on personally, just in middle school and high school, and it was a lot to deal with. And because of being involved in sports, we stopped being able to go to church on Sundays because a lot of the times that's when we had like competitions and just sporting events. So I hadn't been to church for years and I had all this stuff going on, and I didn't really confide in my friends. So I was just trying to deal with it on my own, and that really pulled me away from any sort of faith. So that's why I was like really weak my senior year. But going to college, which didn't initially help it, but it was at college where I almost got a literal wake-up call, because I had started an application to that camp, but at the time I felt, you know what, I can't exactly teach the gospel if I'm not living up to my own faith. So I didn't finish the application. But come the end of my spring semester, where I was really actually down on my own luck, just dealing with a lot of stuff mentally and not like letting anyone in, kind of isolating myself while I was actually isolated, because this was still my first year where we were very limited on what we could do around campus. And then my roommate had left, so I was in a room by myself. So just physically isolated, and then I began to just shut everybody out. But I got a literal wake-up call from the program director of that camp, who saw that I had started an application, and he talked to me all about working there. And I felt, for some reason, still inclined to work there, and I did. And it's probably the best thing I've ever done, just speaking personally. Because like I was saying there, it was such a rekindling in my faith. And that's something that was always important to me, because there's a sense, for me, there's always been, at least now for sure, I don't know if I noticed it before, but very much now, with my faith comes a sense of peace. and it's just been really nice to have almost that community and the friends I've made uh, through that through camp and all that. I got really lucky. I had a really great group of friends in high school that I'm still really good friends with, but uh, most of those friends do not share this faith, which is, like it's still a good thing. It's still wonderful to have those friends.
Mm-hmm.
But when my faith is important to me, it is now good to have other friends that share that faith I can turn to, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And Chris, speaking to you, to what I've seen and have experienced with youth ministry and students as they do this transition, what you've gone through is not uncommon. And that purge, that time of questioning and wrestling with who you are and what your faith is, that's normal. You're doing okay. So yeah.
That actually is really comforting.
And I'm also going to toss this in because are you okay if we name the camp? You've been a little vague about that.
Yeah, we definitely can. I wasn't sure if that's something I could have done. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I didn't know if you wanted to keep that disconnected for a reason, but if you're okay, we can name the camp.
Yeah, let's definitely do that.
So is it Seneca Hills you're talking about?
It is.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of camps over the years in youth ministry, and they are one of the most impressive I've ever dealt with. So you speaking to that and speaking to the love and care they've shown to you, I'm thankful for that. And that only reaffirms to me that that's one of those really good summer camps that gets that they're not just there for a week in a kid's life, but they can have an impact that goes all the way through to adulthood. So yeah. I'm glad to hear that they've had that impact with you, and you and all your siblings went there, right? Yeah.
So we camped there. All three of us camped there for years.
I remember that. It's been a while, but there's still a camp that impresses me with the materials that they send me and the communication I've had with them over the year. They're good. They're really good. So, but as you've gone through college, you feel like elements of your faith have kind of fallen away, but you've also refound it in a way that is meaningful and personal for you.
Yeah.
Would you trade that? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. It's one of those things that, growing up, faith was almost just, I really didn't think about it because it was always there. It was just one of the things that I didn't really, I think this is a common trend with some of the campers I've talked to as well. I grew up in a Christian home. It's like, this isn't the case for everyone, but growing up in a Christian home, at least at a young age, you almost don't look to grow your own faith or understand it because it's just, it's one of those things that they know the basics of the gospel and they don't, they know the story, but they almost don't look to understand the meaning of it. And that's something I didn't do personally for years because we stopped going to church right about the age where I would have been starting to question it. So I was questioning my faith. When I came to that age, I was questioning my faith while not being at church. So I didn't really have anyone to talk to. I definitely could have found someone, but being, like 12, I didn't consider that.
Yeah.
And then with everything that happened in middle school and high school, all those personal issues kind of just seemed to eclipse that. So I really was able to just kind of find my own sense of faith just like last summer.
And that's okay. That's part of the journey. And each of our stories are different in that, but there's a beauty to it. So, Lindsay, you look like you're chewing on something.
I'm just thinking.
Anything you want to share or ask?
I'm not at the moment. Sorry. I'm sorry. Just
You're chewing on stuff. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Chris, can I ask, and again, if we wander into the too personal or something you don't want to talk about, you can say, yeah, we'll pass. But can I ask you a question that may get into that area?
Yeah.
I'm married. I met my wife in a very traditional way. How's the dating scene? Like, are you meeting people in person or are you meeting them through apps and online things?
Well, for me, but I only ever dated one person. That was in high school. And that is, I met her in person and all that. And since then, I haven't gone out of my way to try dating people, but there have been feelings developed for people, and that's been from people I've met in person. Because that's kind of just, I think, who I am. I'm more of an in-person conversationalist. I prefer talking to someone face to face. If I'm gonna text someone, it's gonna be, hey, let's meet here.
Sorry, the reason I ask is I've had a handful of conversations with people and recently who are my age, and looking back and seeing how dating is right now, and it's just, oh, that the whole app thing just seems terrifying.
I can definitely agree with that, because I don't particularly use the apps myself, but I've had friends, and especially people around college, who use them, and it's one of those things where it's almost like demoralizing from what I've seen, because you're taking like people are so starkly different and so starkly like themselves, but when you just put that down into like a few pictures and a couple of sentences on an app, it's so narrow, and it becomes, from what I've seen, people are kind of, it's a toss up of whether they're on there to actually find and meet someone, or to find and meet someone.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, the hookup culture.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to wander into that real brief, see if you had any thoughts on that and successes, or if you're avoiding, or I guess then the only thing I would have to say is don't give up on love. That sounds cheesy. Someone's out there. You'll find her, she'll find you. However.
I'm gonna just the premise for now that, like, I'll wait until it comes to me, especially with just being really focused on college.
And that's not a bad thing at this point in life either, because, finish the college, let life have an order that's not too chaotic. So,
yeah.
I mean, it took me 10 years to figure out my undergraduate, so take your time, do it right. Sounds like that's what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, I'm not in a rush.
Well, and that's good. That is. Lindsay, have any questions? You're like bouncing over there.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
Ooh, favorite pizza topping. I do have to say, I love the stark difference in the topic shift.
Thank you.
Man, my favorite pizza topping would probably have to be, can be a combination of two.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It would have to be bacon and mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you when it started, but that is the go-to pizza order my family and I have had for years. And
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like a comfort food at this point.
Yep. We do this bacon, tomato, and chicken pizza topping, and it's the same. It's like ridiculously rich and amazing.
Okay, I'm
Definitely.
sorry. I am judging both of you on your pizza topping choices. Uh, okay.
What?
Is it
What
the
do you put
bacon?
on your pizza?
No, it's not the bacon. Oh gosh, you can't go wrong with bacon.
So what are you fussing about? What are you fussing about now?
I can
Wow.
understand you fussing about my mushroom, but what's wrong with Lindsay's pizza? That's those are like common ingredients.
Those are common ingredients, and it's not too horrible. But I mean, you got to get like ranch or buffalo sauce on that. It
No,
sounds
that's a different.
incomplete.
But that's a whole different pizza. That's a whole different pizza. Like buffalo chicken pizza is its own thing, and I enjoy buffalo chicken pizza. But you don't mix the two together.
Yeah, but you sound like you're so close to buffalo chicken.
No, you're not.
And
No, you're
Chris,
not.
yours, I just hate mushrooms. I've smelled what they grow in. I can't get past that.
I like mushrooms.
Oh, if I can avoid
Another,
mushrooms, I do.
That's such a shame. Just this past weekend, I was working a retreat at camp,
Yeah.
and it was a family camp, and one of the dads there, they went foraging for mushrooms,
Oh,
and they came back, and I believe the type of mushroom they found that can grow in this area,
Mhm.
I think it's called chicken of the woods,
it is.
yeah.
and they cooked some of those, and it was really good. I think you're just missing out.
I
All
get
right,
that.
here's another.
I've tried cooking them, and I can't get past. I've smelled what they grow in. I'm out.
Next, a very important question is: are you a coffee drinker?
I wasn't until this past summer, because at first I drank it out of necessity when I had to be up at 7 a.m. to deal with dozens of frenzied children. But I have come to really like the taste of coffee.
And what do you put in your coffee? What kind of
Uh,
coffee?
for the longest time, just this summer, I believe the brand they use is Curtis coffee, and I always put in at camp 2 creamers and 2 sugars because that's how someone made it for me the first time. And it's sweet, but I also just kept drinking it that way out of respect to the person that made it for me for the first time.
Oh, cool.
You drink it how you need to.
Yeah. Just curious. There's a super cool market up the road from us. It's owned by Mennonites, and they get, it's kind of like, it's like the thrift store of grocery stores. They get all their stuff that's like past code or going off the shelves. So every once in a while, you go in their coffee section and they've got like Starbucks. And last time I went the day before yesterday, I found Death Wish coffee. And I got it for $4 for a whole big box of Keurig cups,
Holy cow.
and it's very good. I love that little market. Kind of hit or miss because it doesn't always have good coffee, but every once in a while, it's got really good Starbucks. Pike's Place is my favorite Starbucks flavor.
There's just something
Yeah.
really funny to me about buying Starbucks coffee from a Mennonite store.
Yeah, well, I think they get a lot of their stuff from down south, actually, from Pennsylvania.
Really?
I don't know how that works. Yeah.
Oh, there's a whole Mennonite network down here. I mean, shoot, I live by the Amish Mafia,
Yeah.
which my wife keeps telling me is a myth, but I'm not so certain. I've seen those buggies going by at night wondering what they're doing.
Sometimes you
Got
think they
something
gotta
rolled
be
up in a rug.
something.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying, Chris?
I was just saying, sometimes you think they got to be up to something.
Ah, man. Yeah. I got lots of acreage and shovels and guns. So, okay. There is no Amish mafia. I believe you. Yeah. All right. Anyway, away from the coffee and pizza choices.
Fine.
I do have a question for you, Chris. Being off on your own, especially since you said you were renting, have you figured out cooking for yourself yet?
I believe I have. That's something I've actually always loved to do, is cook. Because, it was one of those things, like growing up, mom cooks all the time. And eventually I kind of just like, well, what could go wrong if I try this myself? And the first couple of years were definitely what you would expect of a kid trying to cook for the first time. But food is something I've always taken comfort in, both very much in eating, but also in cooking, because it's one of those things that it brings me a lot of joy to cook food for people and then see them enjoy that.
Is there a favorite dish you've had?
One of the favorite things I like to make for people is it's a barbecue chicken pizza.
Ooh. See, now we're talking right pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
And
go ahead.
oh, sorry. What I do with that is, obviously you get the chicken by itself and you cook it. And I never measure anything, and a lot of the time I know in general what this spice is like, and I know what effect it would have on the dish. So I kind of just throw it in there, and as well as other stuff, whether it's anything from like honey to a soy sauce. It essentially, in the kitchen, it is fun to just mess around with a dish and see what comes out of it. And it can have a range of outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I prefer to cook as well. I get a feel for what it needs to taste like, and I just know. But that's also what drives Melinda nuts, because I'm bad at writing it down, so I don't always have. I don't have it so she can, so she can replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, that's good. Junior year, having that figured out, or at least starting to, that's pretty good. That's impressive. Ladies,
Yeah, it's
he
also
cooks.
comforting to not have bad food.
Yes. Yeah, it's good not to be surviving off of ramen noodles and hot dogs.
Oh yeah, that's definitely what it was like my first year, and I'm glad it's changed.
Good. That sounds like that's a good area for you to enjoy, find relief, but also pleasure in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right. So favorite and worst classes.
Well, my favorite class that I've had would probably have to be my very first semester. I had a calc class, and this it was something that about a third to half the semester, it was just going over what I had learned like toward the tail end of my senior year. So a good part of it was review, but it was just the professor is what made it so interesting. He was just a really cool guy, really relaxed, very welcoming, and that was something I really needed my first semester. Like, he was just a cool guy to the extent where close to Halloween, he dressed up as a banana and taught class that way. And what made it all the funnier when he did that is that about 2/3 of the way through the class, mid lecture, he stops himself and goes, "Wait, I forgot. and then he just steps back from the board and begins to peel his costume like an actual banana. He was a really funny guy, really welcoming. So that was probably my favorite class. But man, my least favorite class. Ooh, that's a toss up because I've had a few professors that were the complete opposite of that guy and just almost just completely disinterested in their students and just wanted to get the job done. But
Effectively, they were. Go ahead.
My least favorite would probably have to be, and it stinks to say, but it was an Egyptian civilization class.
Huh.
And I went into that class expecting it to be so interesting and so fascinating because that subject alone is just, there's so much to it and so much you can learn. But what stunk about it, again, it was the professor that ruined it. It was just this really elderly lady that she just couldn't teach. And it was almost impressive how she could make such a fascinating subject seem boring.
And I mean, that's a hard one to not have fun with too. I mean, shoot, you can come dressed like a pharaoh. Have an Egyptian party day. Bring your cat to sacrifice day. I'm sorry. Oops. Huh. Okay, so best class, calculus. Worst class, Egyptian studies. That not what I would have expected.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I see gears turning. What are you thinking?
I find Egyptian history, my eyes glaze over. I like history, but it's just everything sounds so similar. Everything sort of I don't know. I don't find it very interesting. I don't like it. I mean, maybe I just need to read a good book. Maybe I just haven't read a good book about it because I've learned about it in like school briefly. But North Kingdom, South Kingdom, white, red, plague, slavery. I don't know. Give me Russian history any day. But anyway.
Right. I'm judging you on that, and we're going to talk about Tolstoy for our next book then, aren't we?
No. Pasternak. How about Boris Pasternak? I like revolutions.
All right, Chris, any great insights from college or any questions you would like to ask us?
Ooh, I probably should have thought of questions up until, like just a second. But I think
you can have a minute. You can give an insight and then come back with a question.
That's
no stress, no pressure.
Off the top of my head, just because you were asking me about it, at what point if it was in college, and if not, still answer the question if you would like. When did you think you like really began to find yourself?
Which point?
I didn't in college. That was not my finding time. No, I feel like it's just been in the last 5 years, 10 years that I've really started to actually figure things out, and it not just be, because college for me was just sort of a continuation of the script and doing what I thought I ought to do and being really confused. And so college, I enjoyed learning. I wish I could just stayed in school and like taken kinds of classes, but I felt that ticking clock, like I should know what I'm doing by now. I should know. And I did not know what I was going to do. I just heard other people telling me, having good advice, like, you're good at this and this, why don't you go do that? And it just didn't ring right. And I didn't. And then I got married and left. And it's been my own reading, my own journey, having nothing to do with school, just my own pursuit philosophically that has led to any real discovery. Definitely wasn't college.
For me, a couple of years ago, I think it was a couple of years ago, I reference him several episodes, but Matt Whitman from 10-Minute Bible Hour said something that resonated, where we live in life with chapters. And when I started thinking about it in that way, it actually put a lot of things in perspective, where it's not that I've found myself, it's a new chapter. There are new chapters every day, every year, every couple years. And so it's helped me organize in my head and be able to look back at, okay, this was Rob 2.0, that's, figuring out life, and what it is to work as a career early in marriage. This is me in the chapter where I'm finding out what it is to be a father. So it's not that I've found myself, but it's just that I've become okay with the fact that it's a journey, and every day of that journey brings something new to that story. And for me, that's where it is, where it's okay. I can handle that. I can break it up in my head in a way that is that life with chapters, and see and progress where I've grown, how I'm growing, and where I'm still growing, whether it's in work, family, or spiritual. And I'm okay with that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I guess off of that, is there a good balance? You say, can you find yourself but still acknowledge that you can grow as a person and still be true to that sense of self? I guess, like, can you truly find yourself if you're always growing?
Yes.
I think it's a posture of openness and knowing you're never done as a person. You're never like, okay, now I can laminate myself. This is the permanent copy. You're always getting new information and having new experiences and meeting new people and learning that what you thought you knew a year ago wasn't all the information, or you were wrong. And that's okay. I think the key is to be open and malleable to what's coming, and to be okay with your idea of yourself totally changing 2 years from now. And the way you see now won't be how you see it in 3 years. It's just going to look different. And when you get married, or when you have kids, or when your loved ones, they have kids, or what have you, there's always going to be something to happen that will change your perspective on your past, on your present, and your future. So I think my answer is yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
It definitely is seeming like, at least from what I have inferred, is that change is inevitable, and it's up to us to be open to it, because that can affect how you grow.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be resistant to change, life gets tough. It really does. And there are elements of life that are going to change that you're not comfortable with. Others that you want to change that will never change. But it's kind of how we interact with that, how we approach what that whole process is, that's going to be more defining of who you are than anything else. And I've used the word "it's a journey" a lot to describe what I perceive life as. And I think we're given a journey. I think we're given a process to allow us to grow and change and interact in this world in new ways. And that the day that journey stops is is the day we go home, the day that you plant me and you're done with me. And it's a whole new journey that I start, but the one that you guys live continues. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking through that. But yes, change is inevitable, and I think the process of change and growth is a constant. And while you will change and grow, the product that is Chris, who you are can change and grow, but you will always be Chris. You will always interact with the world from your history and from your hopes. And out of that is how we change, make, and, well, live. That's what I got. All right. Anything else, Chris?
What is the worst piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Gosh. Lindsay, you want to go first, or?
Well, I can't really think of an example. I can think of a frustrating piece of advice of where people tell you to just be yourself. Just be yourself. I don't know who that is at the moment. So, thanks. I'm trying to figure that out. Plus, as a Christian, people say to be yourself or what have you, but I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of contradictory things about whether it's good to be yourself or not. So I don't know. That's not a good example, but
A
that's
little
what came to
pushy on
mind.
that question, Lindsay.
Just be yourself.
Okay.
The heart is deceitfully wicked and you don't know anything, but just be yourself. Lean into it. Okay. Your turn, Rob.
We're going to have to talk about that, Lindsay. Yeah. Focus more on work and less on family.
Who said that?
Someone really told you that?
Yeah, someone told me that once. And it was no. It was countered shortly thereafter by someone else who said, family is a gift. Work is a calling. A calling will always exist, but a family, the gift is to be cherished. And especially having little kids, it's, yeah, I've got these kids effectively as my kids, yes, for all of my life, but I've got 18 years to influence them before they're truly starting to go out onto their own. And, Chris, you're figuring out the world. You've got the years that your family worked to help give you the foundations that you have to be able to approach the world.
I think advice.
Go ahead.
Advice I wish I had been given or that I wish I'd listened to more was right now, you're assuming you're single and you don't have children somewhere. You have so much relative freedom. There's really not much keeping you where you are. Your family presumably will be there when you get back. Go away. Go see things. Go do things while you're single and don't have children. Go explore. Go volunteer somewhere. Go have an adventure. Call me if you need a ride home. Like I kind of wish I had heard that more and been encouraged to go take more risks. Because I just wish I'd seen more things as a grown-up. I saw a lot of things. I went a lot of places as a young person, as a missionary, or as a 15-year-old kid. But what did I know at 15? I wish after high school or before moving on to the next step, I had dropped everything and gotten a job in Washington, D.C. or Nevada or I don't know, gone to see other things, explore a little more before I just decided, oh, I got to know what I need to do for the rest of my life right now. I wish I'd heard that. I wish somebody had told me that. Because once you have kids, nothing is easy. Everything's complicated. And even once you have a spouse, it gets more complicated and it's harder to do what you want to do. Easier than having children. You know, you can't even go to church in the morning on time with kids. Never mind go volunteer as a family after a hurricane.
Yes, you can.
No. You could, but I'm not gifted that way. I wish.
Okay, fine. Mine comes with strings of, okay, come on. I gotta be there.
Anyways.
Yeah, and I'm also only running 2 kids, not 4. If it was 4, it would probably be me leaving and then them catching up with. So,
yes. Yeah. But anyway, Chris, that's what I would recommend person to person before you get tied down anywhere permanently. Go have some fun, explore, save some money, and go and see the redwoods in California or Washington or wherever they are. You know, go see alligators in their wild, or go kiss a cactus. I don't know. Go do something interesting before you get tied down.
Lindsay.
Yeah, okay. I think I should probably go now.
Who in the world ever told you to go kiss a cactus?
Nobody. I don't know.
What in the, oh my gosh. We gotta unpack that at some point.
It could be like a challenge. Do you guys know what a shrike is? This is really interesting. Have you guys ever heard of a shrike? No?
Chris, you still there? I think we lost Chris.
No! That was so much profound advice.
No, his mic died. Okay.
Can he hear us?
Yes, he can.
Chris! Take my advice to heart, young man.
Okay. Yeah, don't kiss a cactus.
I would take it as a challenge. But listen, a shrike is a bird that kills mice and sticks them on spikes on cactuses for later. Isn't that cool? It's like a birdie refrigerator in the desert. Or that's anyway.
You know, some days you scare me, Lindsay. Oh, wait.
It's back. I learned that on Hannibal. No, I didn't.
All right, I heard you, Chris. You there?
I am.
There you are. Okay. Yeah, don't take Lindsay's advice. Don't kiss cactuses. Chalk that up as the worst advice you've been given.
I could do it. Or swim in the Dead Sea.
I planned on doing, but now I know I have been instructed to avoid it.
Oh.
Well, Lindsay's getting a cactus for Christmas now. And that'll be the first of the 2023 episodes. Lindsay, here's your cactus. Now podcast with the needles. But okay. So that was a really good question. I don't think yeah, good question, Chris. Great question. But all right, anything else?
Honestly, I don't think so. Just from the way you guys answered those couple of questions I had, it was really insightful, and I'm glad to know that children are a wonderful gift, but also they anchor you down and kind of. So enjoy the time I have to find myself and grow before, if I have ever am given the opportunity to have kids. These kids are wonderful, but limited.
They can be, but at the same time, that can also just be how you approach it. Because I do know people who, I mean, they have kids and they travel a lot. So it's how you approach it.
It's the exception, kind of.
It is more, yeah, that is more the exception than anything else. But
maybe it'll be your superpower to be able to do cool things and have young children. But
Hey, either
maybe
way.
I'm just really boring.
Hey. Well,
On that note, I'm gonna go. You guys are welcome to continue, but I gotta go make brownies and cake things and birthday things because today is my 10th year anniversary of being a mother. My son turns 10 today.
happy birthday to Toby.
Yeah, I'll let him
So-
know. He's quite thrilled. So I gotta go do a couple things before the party starts.
Well, I got to get moving too. But Chris, thank you for coming on today. This has been a really good conversation, and I appreciate your perspective. And I'm proud of you as a young man.
Thank you. That means a lot, and I thank you for having me. And it's been really nice to have the perspective of people that have, lived longer and learned lessons I haven't.
Yeah, we've taken some dings and hits along the way. We didn't go the traditional route either, Lindsay or I. But yeah, you're doing well, Chris. You're doing well.
Thank you. That means a
Good
lot.
job, Chris.
And hey, as it always stands, you ever need anything, give a yell.
I definitely will.
All right, thank you, Chris, for coming on. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah. See y'all later.
Yep, we'll see you guys.
Yep.
See ya. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you for listening to the 42 podcast. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. And if you want to join in on the conversation, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter to add your voice to the conversation. Thank you.